The combination of reducing fear greatly and increasing the sense of love and openness is a powerful combination for both relationships and therapy.
We're expecting from our partner them to be our lover, our confidant, our best friend, our handyman. We're expecting from one person. We can't always get that.
In the last 40 years, I've led about 700 journeys. But common issues that people have are sex, money, parenting, jealousy, infidelity. I see the whole range. It's not a magic bullet.
It still works.
But it is something that can take a relationship to a whole new level. And with a little bit of extra help, the results can be quite magical.
Welcome everyone to the Reconnect to Self podcast, the show that helps you ultimately rediscover what brings you joy. My name is Scott. I am your host and also a filmmaker. And as always, I'm here with my wife, Tracy, who is a counselor of 20 years, a qualified breathwork instructor, and a certified psychedelic-assisted therapist, which is the topic of the show.
Yes,
so you're going to be very excited about
excited.
this. All right, well, let's introduce our guest. Today, we're joined by Jonathan Robinson, former psychotherapist, best-selling author of 16 books, and one of the early pioneers in MDMA-assisted therapy. Jonathan has been working in this space since the 1980s, guiding hundreds of individuals and couples through structured MDMA-supported experiences to help heal trauma, reduce anxiety, and create deeper connection. You may have even seen him on Oprah over the years, where he shared his insights on relationships and personal growth. His latest book, Ecstasy for Couples, explores how this work can help couples break down barriers, reconnect emotionally, and create more love with less conflict. It's a pleasure to have you all the way from California. Welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Scott. And Tracy, congratulations on being a psychedelic therapist. Not many people can say that in the
I
world.
know, and we're legal over here in Australia.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay, you're making me jealous.
Don't be jealous, you're doing the work, I'm not. I still haven't worked with clients yet, but yes, technically in Australia we are legal for MDMA, ketamine and psilocybin, but they have to be prescribed by a psychiatrist, and it's still in the clinical settings and it's still very restricted and very expensive. So I'm so excited to hear all of your experience and all the things you've been doing for the last couple of decades. And
yeah, I think that's a great place to start. The 1980s feels like, I didn't realize it was happening back then. Do you want to tell us how you got into all of this?
Well, I was a nerdy teenager, and when I took MDMA, or better known as ecstasy, it opened me up to a whole new world of feelings and love and intimacy. So when I went to graduate school, I decided that I would do a study on the effects of MDMA for overcoming traumatic memories. And it was the first study at that time for doing that.
Really?
That MDMA was legal at that time in the United States. Then I finished the study. The results were so outlandishly good that my supervisor couldn't believe it. He wanted me to do the study again, but then by then they made it illegal. So for the next 35 years, nobody could study it.
Oh my God.
And in the meantime, I became a psychotherapist and I worked underground helping people. And in the last 40 years, I've led about somewhere in the vicinity of about 700 journeys.
that's incredible. God. See, this is why I was excited to talk to you.
Tell us about the doing it on underground. Like, how does that look? How does that play out? How did you decide to do that, and how do people find out about it?
Yeah, well, people found out about it mostly through word of mouth. In the last few years, it's changed a lot because there was really before COVID and after COVID. Before COVID, I would do these sessions in person, and that was a little dangerous. It would be word of mouth and the whole thing. I was a little worried because being a psychotherapist, I could get in trouble, but I never had a problem. And when COVID hit, I wondered, can I do this over Zoom? And I thought probably not, but I tried it and it worked incredibly well over Zoom. It worked better over Zoom than in person.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to figure out why, but I have some theories. But over Zoom, there's no legal issue. You can talk to anybody over Zoom. And I make sure that people have good medicine. I have a way of doing that that is very safe. And since then, I'm, booked for a while because it's really effective therapy, and it is more convenient for everybody to do it in the privacy of their own home and not have to travel and the whole thing. So that's kind of the protocol I've been putting forth in my trainings.
I love that.
And what you mentioned you had some theories on why Zoom works so well. What are those theories?
Well, one thing, a lot of people who've been traumatized, say women who've been raped or sexually molested, having them come to a stranger's office and take a drug and sit on their couch is a big ask and not
Yeah.
that comfortable.
Yeah.
So, being in your own home feels really comfortable. You might have your pet dog or cat there with you. That feels good, or a partner. And they don't have to worry about hotels and planes and driving to a hotel afterwards. So there's more comfort and
yeah.
there's more safety involved. And
Less hoops to jump through as well with all those things you're just mentioning. If you're just in your own
yeah,
house, you've got that comfort of your own environment. Like you said, the animals. I think animals would be a massive part of people, getting that support, in those journeys.
absolutely. And so people just feel safer. And a lot of times therapy goes deeper. The MDMA gives a feeling of safety, but Zoom also gives a feeling of safety as well as somebody's house. So that's my theory as to why it's working so well. I was talking to Rick Doblin of Maps the
Yep.
other day about this, and he was supportive. He was like this, surprised that it worked so well over Zoom. I gave him some data about that, and he said, "Well, good luck. Keep collecting
I
data
love
about that."
Scott might not have realised that wasn't a name drop, but that I pick up that name drop. That's a big name. It's a big name in the psychedelic space that you just dropped there, just in casual conversation that you're chatting with him the other day. Like that's pretty big.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
But I imagine
he's a
you probably
great
know
guy.
all the players in
And
the.
if it weren't for him, there probably wouldn't be any studies at all done
Yeah.
on MDMA.
So there was lots, because from my studies, they did a lot of training around the history of psychedelics and how they got banned and all those sort of things. So they did actually have them legal, like you were saying with the MDMA, and they were doing lots of research around couples work around that time, weren't they? And then because they were sharing the medicine and getting people to do research in their own clinics. Can you tell people about your understanding of that?
Well, the history is that MDMA was made popular by a guy named Sasha Shulgin in the 70s, and he gave it to therapists who then used it as couples therapy enhancer,
Yes, that's
which
what I've
is
heard.
incredible. And it got very popular. The couples were finding that really worked well, and then it got into the rave scene and got abused and all that stuff. There's never been a book written about ecstasy for couples, so I figured I would write it.
It's a great name too, the double entendre of the name as well. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. But you probably know that a lot of couples use this as a way to really connect. When you have a guide, it helps to connect even deeper and work through problems. As a therapist, couples therapy is usually a long, slow slog.
Yes. It sure
But
is.
with MDMA, it's like enjoyable for everybody, and it
Yeah.
usually takes like 5 hours, and then you're done. So I actually don't do couples therapy anymore unless the couple is willing, one or more partners are willing to take MDMA. It just
Oh, I'd
makes my
like to
job
move
so
into
much
that kind
easier.
of a that kind of a practice. Oh, you are literally living my dream. Like honestly, I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and you said something about how anything that you're doing in therapy, you add MDMA to it, and it just it just gives it a whole nother level. Like even EMDR, you were saying.
Yeah, it can take 6 months or a year to get total openness, no defensiveness from a client. On MDMA, that takes about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Oh, I love it. I
So
love it.
how do I want to sort of set the scene for people who've never really delved into this in any way. At what point do couples go, we should do an MDMA session? Like what are the obstacles they're trying to overcome that maybe they've been in therapy and it's not working the way they wanted, or like how does that all play out?
Well, the average couple waits 6 years before they see a therapist. So normally a lot of the couples I see are like on the verge of divorce, not all of them. Some people just use it to enhance their relationship. But a lot of couples are in serious trouble, and it's very moving to see them start to understand each other really well during the session. I never have couples come in and say, we understand each other really well. That's why we want a divorce. So it facilitates that opening that they can really hear each other.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of being able to solve problems. It's very hard to solve problems when you don't trust or like someone, and you're trying to work through difficult issues. But common issues that people have are, sex, money, parenting, jealousy, infidelity. I see the whole range.
Yeah,
and
me too.
it's a hard time. It's a hard time for couples nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I think what that is because we're trying to do a whole tribe and community's worth of tasks in just a relationship. We're expecting from our partner them to be our lover, our confidant, our best friend, our handyman, our, everything in the world we're expecting from one person. And we can't always get that.
Most of the time you can't get that. There's not that many people who are that great at everything, So
yeah.
I do find that people are, it's almost like you're reprogramming or deprogramming people on MDMA, because, what's the chances that somebody is going to be a great with finances, great with sex, great with kids, great with friends, great with fun, great with, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
And part of what I do is MDMA helps people see things more soberly and more clearly. The story I like to share, because it's kind of funny and also tells people experience on MDMA. My parents were always asking me why I was dealing with this illegal drug. And I said, well, it's really a miracle medicine. You should try it sometime. Well, they were conservative, but I was surprised that they said, okay, we trust you, we'll try it. Wow. So I give them the medicine. I tell them, how to take it in a good set and setting. A year later, I asked them if they took it, and they said, oh, yeah, we tried it. And I said, what happened? And they said, well, we waited like 20 minutes and nothing happened. It didn't take effect. And the drug takes like 45 minutes to feel. So I said, well, what happened after the 20 minutes? And they said, well, we had nothing planned. So we just sat on the couch. And then their eyes lit up and they said, and it ended up being the best night of our entire marriage.
I wonder why that was.
We talked about how much we loved each other and how grateful we were. And we had some arguments the prior week and we worked all that out. It was really just a wonderful evening. The only disappointment was the drug never took effect.
Oh, I love that.
That's hilarious.
And that's because there's one slide that was in my psychedelics training that I absolutely love, and it was the brain on psilocybin, all lit up with all the brain connectivity and all the neuroconnections sort of happening. So, do you know what's happening in the brain or what's happening in the body when people are on MDMA? Because we do feel in our hearts, we really feel connected to everything. We feel open-hearted and loving.
Yeah, what it's doing is basically three things. It's greatly reducing blood flow to the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is kind of fight or flight that gives us fear.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it floods the brain with serotonin and oxytocin, which are feel-good, love, connection, neurotransmitters. And so the combination of reducing fear greatly and increasing the sense of love and openness is a powerful combination for both relationships and therapy.
Yeah, how beautiful. Because one of the things that I find that with couples that they struggle with is if one person's kind of coming down here, and deeper in conversation, if their partner is not meeting them there, is they're not coming down and being at the same level of vulnerability, then the person that's down there being vulnerable and not being supported, they close right back up. And in fact, they can often then get more annoyed that you didn't support me when I was down there. So I imagine that on MDMA, everybody's feeling that level of support and in connection, and you're not being left there on your own in that vulnerable space.
Yeah, it's really very moving for me to watch couples that, might start on the opposite side of the couch, not even looking at each other, loving and connecting. It's really, I'm often in tears as well.
Oh, I love that.
It's very heartwarming. And I think in this day and age where we need love and we need connection more than ever, it's really the best medicine for most people. With the other psychedelics, there's a 20% chance, 25% chance that people are going to have a really what's called bad trip or a challenging trip. Of these 700 sessions I've done, so far, nobody has had a bad trip, and 2 people have had what I would call a challenging trip.
Wow.
So that's less than one. That's about 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's just a very gentle medicine.
Do you think it's because you're helping create that setting, the mindset, and also the setting of their environment, or do you think it's?
So I think the reason why people don't have challenging or difficult trips is 3 reasons. One is I have a way of getting good medicine to them. And most of the people who have, quote, bad trips on MDMA, they're not actually taking MDMA. It's sometimes mixed with bath salts and all other kind of stuff. So in America, half of the MDMA is combined with other stuff. And that's not good. I have a way of making sure that they get pure MDMA, and that helps a lot.
Can I ask, and you do not have to answer this, or you can share as much as you're comfortable with, but how much detail can you go into about how you do that?
Yeah, the way I do that, and I'm fine going into detail, there's an app called Signal. Familiar with that app?
No.
It's fully encrypted. It's fully encrypted, so law enforcement can't get into it. And on that app, I give the phone number of somebody who I've worked with for over 20 years.
Oh, great.
Who applies people. He mails it, and we've never had a problem in over 20 years. So I don't secure the MDMA for people, but they have a way of getting.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But do you know what I really, really appreciate about what you're doing is you studied it, saw all the effects, and just because the laws changed, you stuck with what you thought was morally correct. So even though the laws were, changed, you went, no, this is actually working, and I'm not going to listen to what they're saying, and I'm going to do good work, even if it's underground. Takes such courage and strength to do that. And it's needed.
Yeah, actually, I don't think it. Well, thank you, but I don't think it takes as much courage as people think. First of all, maybe a fifth of my clients are cops. I've said, if ever I got arrested, I would take down the LA Police Department. So.
And they're probably ones that need it the most.
Yeah,
This
right.
therapy.
I mean, a lot of cops are traumatized.
Yeah, what they see and what they go through.
The other thing is, going after a person using this medicine in a therapeutic context where I'm not dealing the medicine, the only thing that they would arrest me for is talking to somebody who is on the medicine on Zoom. It really wouldn't be a case. And 120,000 people in the United States are dying of fentanyl each year.
Yeah.
And last year, 1 person in the United States died of MDMA, which wasn't really MDMA.
Yeah.
So,
the stats are good.
They're not to arrest a therapist trying to help other cops.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
How do you decide dosage and stuff, when you're sending it to them, and
or recommending?
Do people buy extras because they're like, oh, this has been great, we might do it again, or how does that work?
Well, I don't know what they are doing with the group on Signal that I suggest, so I'm out of that loop.
Right.
But I do know that that group always sends the exact same amount, which
Right.
is 120 milligram pill plus a 60 milligram booster. And unlike say psilocybin or LSD, there's really not much of a range for MDMA, meaning you can't microdose it and you can't take a lot more.
Oh,
Both of
okay.
those, it's a very narrow window of what is the right dosage. If people are very sensitive, I tell them start with the booster dose, see how you do on that.
Yeah.
But for 9 out of 10 people, the 120 milligrams is about the right dose.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And talk us through, like, obviously you said it takes about 45 minutes to kick in. I'm trying to picture like two people on their couch who might not like each other that much at that point in time. They've got you on Zoom, much the same way we do. And then you're going, right, you take the first pill. And then, like, what happens for that 45 minutes? And then how do you sort of get into the nuts and bolts of it?
Yeah, well, in the book, I go into a lot of detail about that. But what I do is I tell people to take the medicine half an hour before they meet with me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Of
So I
course.
only
Yeah.
have like
Yeah.
10 minutes where they are not yet feeling the
Then the
effect.
opposite end of the couch, yeah.
And, I make sure they're comfortable, that they aren't going to have distractions. We do a little small talk. And then as they start to feel the effect, I usually ask them the question, so how'd you two meet? And what's happening is they're starting to feel really good. And everybody has a story about what it was like to first meet. And soon
Yes.
they're madly in love and open. And then we go into really their issues and helping them to understand each other, helping them to deal with, things like probably half the couples they see are not having sex.
Yeah.
And we go into the detail. And what's great about MDMA is you can talk about your sexual problems, your money problems, whatever it is, the same way you might talk about the weather normally. There's
Oh,
just no fear there.
this would be amazing. Like as a relationship therapist, and I also have retreats where we take them away for 2 days and, they really get to the patterns underneath and things. And we find good shifts on those because you're doing such intense work. But, oh man, to be able to sit with someone and have that shift and have them be so open immediately, you would get through so much content.
Yeah, you do. I had a couple write to me. First, I should tell you a little bit more about my protocol. I meet with them for an hour to discuss their issues, not on MDMA, just getting all the things. They often send me a list of all their problems. I had one couple send me 26 of them, 26 issues. During the 5-hour session where they're on MDMA, we actually went through all 26 issues.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we come up with agreements like how to handle certain things. Then a week later, we have a integration session where they're not on MDMA, and we go over their issues and how it's been. I usually record the sessions and have them listen to it. And that's also been very powerful because people are surprised what it's like to really talk lovingly. And that is
Oh.
actually very impactful for them to hear themselves talk in a vulnerable, open way.
Yeah, because I guess that would show them it's possible again. Like that's what I've heard about, with psychedelics. It's taking us into a state where we want to be able to trace those steps ourselves without being on a psychedelic, but it shows us kind of what's possible. So how beautiful that, you're showing them the recording and they're seeing again when they're not in that altered state. Look how possible that is for you to talk beautifully, for you to, sit with that body language. I think that's really magical.
Yeah, and I teach people certain communication methods that help. One of the times I was on Oprah was for a book called Communication Miracles for Couples, and Oprah really loved that book, so it became a bestseller. And there's really, we never learn how to communicate well in a relationship. We mostly learn shaming and blaming and complaining and explaining. None of those work. But on MDMA, I show people a different way to communicate that actually works for both people.
How beautiful. Now, look, you did mention Oprah and Scott did at the beginning, so I'm going to just segue this just really fast. How did you end up on Oprah? And please tell me how that was for the first time that you went. Like, you don't really get to talk to people who go on Oprah very often in Australia, so I'm going to take my chance.
Well, it helps to have books that she liked.
Mm,
And I was on 3 times for 3 different books.
Wow.
She was wonderful. It's interesting. I'll tell you an Oprah story that's it
beautiful.
shows you something special about her. So the first time I'm on her book during the commercial, she says, I really loved your book. I said, oh, thank you so much. Could you say it while the camera's rolling? And then she laughed. She said, yeah, I'll do that. And then she said, I really love the story about your dog. How's your dog doing? And I said, actually, he's not doing well. He started to have seizures. And she said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What's his name? And I said, his name's Rama. And she said, oh, I'll be sure to pray for him. And that was our entire off-camera conversation.
Mhm.
2 years later, I'm on her show again for a different book. And she said, oh, Jonathan, good to see you again. By the way, how's Rama? Now,
Wow.
this was
Even to
two
remember
years
that
later.
name.
And I never had the thought that she could remember a 10-second conversation from two
Wow.
years ago. So my response was, who's Rama? And she said, Rama's your dog. He was having seizures. I prayed for him. How's he doing? And I said, better. He's doing good. And I said, how'd you do that? And she said, well, when I was 15, I had just been raped for the second time and had a stillborn child and was put in the quote retarded class at school. And obviously I was depressed. And I said, what do I have going for me? And she said, well, the only thing I have going for me is I care about people deeply. And she made a vow that she would show her care for people every day. And remembering, what the guests say and showing her care is really like what led her to where she is. And she
Yeah.
said,
How
looks like that turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming back to Oprah and even just that heart-centeredness, that's the same as, with being on MDMA, it's just opening that heart. So she's doing that intentionally, trying to
Yeah.
connect with people, trying to remember things about them to make them feel cared about. And that's why she's been so successful. So I think this kind of work where we're bringing people back into their hearts and being more intentional, more loving, that's creating that kind of field, that Oprah's kind
Absolutely.
of got.
We live in a weird world now where things like money and politics and all the corruption get big play. But from what I get from the spiritual leaders I've talked to, I've interviewed everybody from Mother Teresa to the Dalai Lama
Oh, wow.
for books, that it's all really about love, that's our lesson here.
Yeah.
And we have a million distractions and things in the way, but MDMA is a medicine that I think can help us move forward with that lesson and learn how to be better lovers, better friends, better partners, better carers of animals, even, so
Yeah.
I think of it as sacred work, and I feel really lucky that I get to do it.
Oh,
Does it have, Tracy told me, I guess I've seen on documentaries and stuff, with psilocybin, it's like a one and done.
not always.
Quite
It can be a couple, yeah,
Right.
but it's pretty close to.
Is it the same with this? Like you have one amazing MDMA couples therapy session and then everything from then on is great? Or does it need
Couple of doses.
ongoing work, or how does that all work?
Yeah, great question. First of all, 15% of the couples that I see who are having pretty big problems decide that maybe they should split up. So it's not always,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
the perfect ending, but they do it without blame.
Yeah.
Sometimes people really shouldn't be together, and with clarity, they can do it with love. Like, hey, we're going in separate directions. And I think of that as a success
I
when
do
that
too. I do
happens.
too, because it can turn so nasty when you get hurt feelings involved and people's walls go up. That's when you can
Yeah.
really, really get a battle on your hands. So if you can do that in a really loving way and just sort of realize that it's just not working for both of you, that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Now, after the MDMA session, I do at least one integration session. And sometimes I'll do two more like a month apart. Because really they have to cement the insights into skills for really keeping their relationship moving forward. Sometimes I only do one MDMA session, but
Yep.
sometimes I do up to 3 counseling sessions afterwards, depending upon what's needed. So it's not, it's not a magic bullet. It's
Yeah. Still work.
but it is something that can take a relationship to a whole new level, and with a little bit of extra help, the results can be quite magical.
Yeah, and even for my psychedelics course, they really talked a lot about their integration being so important, because exactly what you just said, you could have that great day, on the dosing day, but if you're not putting those things into practice in the relationship, you probably could slip back into the old patterns. So with the integration on those sessions, are you finding that the couples have really shifted by that point, or are you having to really do, much work at that point as well?
I'd say a little bit of each. Probably about 70% have really shifted, but they still need to make habits out of some new ways of relating. And that does take some practice. And so, when I see couples a week later, most of them have said, "Oh, that was a fantastic week," But every now and then, couples get into what I call their misery go round, where they triggered their partner, and their partner's response triggers them back, which triggers the other partner, and it goes around. So we always have to come up with like very precise agreements on how to avoid those 1 or 2 issues that always lead to trouble in the past.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question that's just occurred to me as you were saying that. I speak from experience. So, in our younger days, I dabbled with MDMA on more of a party scene.
Yeah.
And obviously probably wasn't pure MDMA, but you would always have a come down. Is that an issue where, you might feel a little bit depressed after you've had all of this elation? Does that happen when you're dealing with like 100% pure MDMA the way that you do?
Well, people are different. What I've said is, first of all, when they get the MDMA from the contact on Signal, that person sends them 8 supplements to take with the MDMA, which have been shown to lessen all the side effects. So if you don't take those 8 supplements, it's some supplements you take before, during, and then like the next day. If you don't take those, about half of people do feel a come down the next day, that they feel tired, a little depressed.
Yeah.
With the supplements that they get, I would say only about 10% feel that.
Right.
So it's rare, but it does happen. And I tell people, make sure that you're not holding a big business meeting the next morning.
But the work they've done the day before means that they're not going to instantly hate each other because they're feeling a little bit of a come down. Usually they've done a lot of the heavy lifting in the session, I assume. Yeah,
and usually there's a little bit, I've noticed when people take these supplements, that they still feel kind of good and high the next day. That's not unusual.
What are these supplements?
I heard this on the other podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Right.
Vitamin C. Is vitamin C one of them?
They're all listed in the Ecstasy for Couples book, or Ecstasy as Medicine book, but the most important one is alpha lipoic acid and L-carnitine. But there's other ones, some that you want to take magnesium glycinate, you want to take vitamin C, you want to take things like coenzyme Q10. You can go to certain websites, like one is rollkit.com or rollkit.org, and they sell a package, but my contact actually just sends them those supplements as part of the process.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah, that's so
even
good.
that, to support them even further in their body, replenishing those chemicals that they've just used and not having that dip. That's so good. Yeah.
This is a question for either of you, because obviously you both deal with couples a lot. What is the thing that is the main difference? Is it the fact that you're more vulnerable? Is it the fact that you're not in fight or flight because that person's not annoying you as much?
It's both of those. So far, it's both of those.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to, for people who are listening, I want to really drill down into what is the difference. The opening of the heart, the vulnerability, you're not
You're not in
fight
your
or
defenses.
flight. Right.
You've not got
Yeah.
your walls up.
Yeah.
You're hearing each other.
Okay.
What would you say, Jonathan?
Well, I'd say it's a combination that we often have a lot of fear that's kind of invisible to us. Like, if you think of your partner, do you want to talk about exactly what you like and don't like about your sex together? I'd rather avoid that conversation,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, or your money complaints or whatever. So when you take that fear away with the addition that you're feeling incredibly close, that's a powerful combination.
Yeah. You mentioned sex there, and it was one of the things I wanted to ask about is how does that, I don't know how else to ask this question, but like, will couples have sex after your session? I mean, obviously you're not on the Zoom call.
It's a different kind of therapy.
Yeah. But it is a love drug, right? So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, one thing to know about MDMA is it's almost impossible to orgasm on the drug.
Right. Okay.
So more people are interested in cuddling and fooling around, kissing than they are of having sex. There are couples that will say, "Gee, we haven't touched each other for 4 years. Do you mind if we take an hour or half an hour to cuddle?" And I say, "Yeah, I'll meet you back in an hour. Turn off your Zoom and have a good." Usually, when we turn back on the Zoom, I see two very happy people. But after the session, also people often cuddle because they feel close to each other. It is a little bit rare that they can successfully have intercourse while on the drug.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember that feeling in my 20s, but going out, and I was the same as Scott, going out clubbing and having an ecstasy pill. And I would be snuggling with my friends. If there was ever a couch at a nightclub or wherever we were, we would be snuggling and cuddling, and I would make friends with strangers in the toilets. I was just...
Yeah, making friends with strangers is
a
big one.
I used to like being on a mission. Someone would set me a mission what I had to do. Like, it just makes you so... like you said, fearless, and in a way that you're open to people and you're not afraid of people, and you can talk to people. You can, like I said, snuggle up to my friends and feel really connected to them. So yeah, I could totally imagine that using that with your partner in a way. Yeah, you totally want to turn off the Zoom and.
Yeah, here one of the things I've done is I was booked a long time ahead, and I decided to do a training where I trained other healers. And for my training, I was a little surprised when 500 people showed up on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Gosh.
But I now have the most successful MDMA facilitator training in the world. And that feels really good because I have a very different protocol than the MAPS protocol.
You do, yes. So can you tell us about that?
And so in the MAPS protocol, they were trying to get FDA approval mostly. So they were minimizing the therapy and mostly giving people a pill, putting blindfold on them and headphones and having them listen to music. And a therapist was there if they wanted to talk to the therapist, but there was no interaction necessarily. Well, that showed that it was quite effective, but it didn't get FDA approval because they said just the fact that there's any therapy, we don't know how to evaluate that. So it unfortunately didn't get FDA approval, although it was shown to be very effective for overcoming trauma and PTSD. Different approach. I said, let's just do 5 hours of therapy on it. And that's a little hard on me, but people on MDMA love to talk about their issues.
Yeah.
They could go on over and over. So I was getting great results. So I decided to do this facilitator training, 50 hours of training, all online. And so now there's a lot of people in the United States who do this on Zoom, and it's been really great.
I love that.
If people want to know about that, they can go to mdmatraining.net.
That's really
all explained there.
So for my training, it's exactly what you just described with Maps. Yeah. So we have to have the same thing. But actually for us, it's two therapists. So, and we're very much told, it's a very observing kind of a therapy. Like if they want to engage with us, we can respond to them, but we don't just check on them for our own curiosity or bother them in any way. Like it's very observing. So yeah, your way of doing things is actually very different. Mm.
And as you know, that therapy ends up being incredibly expensive.
Yes.
Because it's 3 sessions, 2 therapists, the whole thing.
All the integration.
If it ever gets, I think it's like $15,000 or something.
Do you know what? I can't even find the prices. Back when I very first started studying before I studied psychedelics, there was one of the private hospitals here. They had it on their website, and it said $70,000. So that's Australian. So we're different exchange rate than you, but in brackets it said, yes, that is correct, because people must have been ringing the clinic thinking, have they put an extra 0 on there? So over here in Australia, which is why I went into breathwork, because it wasn't accessible, in the mainstream just yet, especially in here in Perth, because we're much more behind the rest of the country. So, I just feel like you can't really... Yeah, I've gone off track. What am I saying?
Well, one of the questions I wanted to, as a follow-up, is to ask you, Tracy, what do you prefer? Like, would you prefer to just sit there and let the person do their journey? Or
no, I want to be like Jonathan. Yeah. I want to have all the conversations that I normally have in my office with open people. Yeah. Like, if I could see the shift and change right in front of my eyes, I know that would light me up. And I think 5 hours would go like that if I was really engaged and seeing shifts and seeing changes. And same like on the retreats, where they're the whole day with couples and things. That day flies. I love it. So, I would ultimately love, there's a movie with Nicole Kidman in it. It's a miniseries.
The TV show.
Nine Perfect Strangers, where she gives people, depending on what she sees is relevant for them. Some might get MDMA, some might get psilocybin, some might get whatever. And I run retreats. I'm like, that's the dream. Get to the point where you can figure out who needs what, do the therapies around that. Oh, amazing. Do you ever do anything prior to doing it on Zoom? Did you ever do anything in nature, or was it always office-based?
I would sometimes do it in nature. It's hard to get that right set up, and it tends to be more expensive. I want this to be available to a lot of people. So actually, people who take my training, they have to offer this medicine, the whole protocol, to at least 5 people for under $1,000. That way they get the experience, and you can help more people. We've helped a lot of veterans, police officers, and of course, other people. When you start dealing with retreats, it gets more expensive. I think it's great, but I have been surprised that the fact that people are doing it on Zoom actually is a little bit helpful in that there's going on. When you're in nature, it's like you're looking around.
Oh, yeah, true.
There's all
probably better for psilocybin.
And it's a little bit distracting to the therapeutic process.
Yeah, that's true, because you're trying to work with the couple. Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience. I don't suggest that people not take MDMA in nature, but in terms of therapy, it can be a little bit distracting.
Yeah. So since you've been doing this for so many decades, have you had friends come to you and want to try this therapy?
Sure. And family members, obviously, my brother and my parents.
Who went first? Did your parents go first, or your brother go after your parents?
My parents went first, and then my brother.
So they were the trailblazers.
It's a little tricky, sometimes depending on the relationship you have with the person. Sometimes I've actually, with a friend, thought it might be them, so I referred out to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And do you ever work with individuals, or because I guess the other thing we haven't, and it's not really the topic of today's show, but I know, and you mentioned a second ago, PTSD, and which is often for police officers or soldiers and
emergency service people.
Yeah. Do you do any of that work? Because I think it'd be just interesting. We'd probably have some emergency services people listening.
Yeah,
how it can help with that kind of thing.
2/3 of the people I work with are individuals, 1/3 couples.
Oh, okay.
So the most common thing for individuals, actually, it used to be PTSD. Now I have a lot of people coming to me for anxiety disorders or just anxiety. A lot of people wanting more spiritual opening. I have a podcast called Awareness Explorers, which is all about interviewing spiritual leaders. So, a lot of people want to open to more love and joy. And that's my definition of spirituality. And I think MDMA gives you a forevision of what that is like,
Yeah.
and then how you can maybe, what's the recipe for you tapping into more joy, more peace, more love, which I think is very individual. For example, I know you have a beautiful doggy there.
Yes.
I bet you love this dog a lot,
So much.
right? Yeah. I will often use that. Okay, tune into your love for your dog.
Yeah.
Now, what's actually going on in your body as you do that? Can you expand it? How could you contract it? And you just notice, you learn how to like open to love. That's not a subject that we learn in most spiritual
Yeah.
circles, or certainly in life.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. Like all the podcasts, 'cause I'm very spiritual, and so all the podcasts I listen to, around spirituality, it's all about, and you said it earlier, getting rid of that conditioning that we've had programmed into us from childhood, from families, from society, and really coming back to ourselves, tuning in, listening to the messages within us, and not being distracted by the outside world. And because the world has got so much chaos going on, and we're busy and we're running from one thing to the next, we're very rarely stopping, tuning in, listening to the signals, seeing what's important to us. We're just running in our patterns. So I think these medicines are a great way to bring us back to what's truly important to us and break free of all that conditioning, even if it is just for that dosing day, and then obviously you've got to integrate that afterwards. But I think that that's what it breaks through from, is all those restrictions and rules and patterns and things that just lock us into those behaviors and even thinking styles.
Yeah, and you can better see the obstacles. Another thing I do when people come to me individually is I have like a toolbox of like 100 different very simple tools for opening people to peace and joy. I've talked to over 100 spiritual leaders, and I tried to come up with the right method for them to very quickly open their heart when they want to. And that's sometimes I use intuition, but on MDMA, I can like say, try this, and then immediately people know if that works for them or not. And then in the integration session, I say, okay, how can you bring that method that only took a minute into your life so that you can open up to more love in your life?
Would you mind if we delved into this a little bit more? Because I'm almost like a test subject, right? I've talked about on this podcast before where there's been periods of my life where I felt it very difficult to find joy. Like I've been stressed, anxious. I think naturally just kind of grew up a little bit skeptical of things. I've talked before on the show, there's things that happened, my sort of teenage years where I learned that, well, if you don't get excited about something, then you can't lose it. And went through this period of using that as a sort of protection. Like if I don't get excited about it and don't, feel joy about it, then I'm not going to be that bothered if it goes away.
Taken from you, yeah.
So I am like that sort of archetype person who doesn't, and it's something I've worked hard on. So I just want to delve, because I listened to a few of the Oprah clips, and I know that one of them was specifically about finding joy. And I was like, you might have picked up the tagline of our show is helping people rediscover what brings them joy. So I just want to delve a little bit further into that. Like, what do you do with someone like me? I think I have gotten better, but even with Lenny, the dog here, the way that Tracy and our kids interact with Lenny is different to how I interact with Lenny. And so I love him dearly, but I can see the rest of the family just open their heart to him.
We're obsessed with him.
Whereas I have this self-protection thing because dogs are fragile creatures, I think. And I'm like, don't get too attached to him. Like, it's weird. I know I've rambled there for quite a while, but hopefully I've sort of set the scene of what type of person I have been and can be.
And what type of person most people are by the time they've reached our age, because the world's a tough place. And, I was abused as a child, so I certainly can identify with what you're talking about in terms of being afraid and closed. So think of, I'll call it the joy muscle. If you want to build up your biceps, you go to the gym and you build it up, right? And there's a very clear way to build up your biceps. Most people don't know, how do you build up your joy muscle, your ability to feel joy? Well, certainly various psychedelics can help, especially MDMA, in my opinion. But then you want to do certain very simple practices that seem to work for you. Like, I'll give 2 or 3 examples. One would be spending 3 minutes a day focusing on all the people and animals you've ever loved. Just like, and then sending them love. So, you send love to your dog, you send love to Tracy, you send love to whoever you've ever loved. Well, with practice, you do get better at doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not something people normally practice, so they don't see that they get better at. But I actually do like 10 minutes of what I call a love meditation every day. I have a list of 30 people I've loved in my life, and I just send them love. I think of what is so amazing about them, and I get better at opening to that frequency. That's one thing you can do.
I know what you're talking about. I do the same thing. I'll put white lights around people in the mornings and I'll send them love and protection and all these things. But it's me coming into my heart, and it's me starting my day in my heart. And same thing, what you said about Lenny. Lenny's usually in my bed. So I'll usually try and snuggle him and feel that energy of me loving him. And then that's what I say to myself is, this is the energy I want to stay in all day. So really noticing that feeling. And then I think if you start your day that way, where you're really in your heart, you're really noticing that calm, if you're getting pulled out of that, then that's when you're going to notice that, you have had that shift and what's pulled my attention away from that. So you can redirect that back to your heart. But if you're not even noticing that you're getting pulled out of it in the first place, you'll just stay out of it.
Now, I have like probably 40 different methods, so I'm only going to mention like 3 or 4. Another thing for a lot of people is singing or dancing or anything that helps you to kind of break out of this sense of a shell. So I have a list of my favorite silly, funny, enjoyable songs that I sing with. And that's opening you up to more joy. For some people, it's a certain nature spot. For some people, it's a certain dance or certain music. Also, certain movies. I've seen some movies 20 times because every time they open me up to some joy. Then there's looking at the blocks to it. That's another approach. And for a lot of people, a major block, and they see this on MDMA, is a fear of looking silly or stupid.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we actually get them to like really go into that.
Oh, wow.
And they see it, they survive. Like, oh.
Wasn't so bad.
The embarrassment is almost like the fear of looking stupid, or embarrassment can be like a prison that you want to open those walls so that you're okay singing a silly song throughout the house.
Yeah.
Because the ability to play, look at 3-year-olds, they all play, whereas adults tend not to. So I try to get people in touch with what allows them to get into a feeling of play. And that's like a doorway to more love and more joy.
Yeah.
So there's different
I agree.
approaches, different methods.
Can I ask as well, because you've you've written 16 books. How did you come up with, the next topic and the next topic? Like, what was it that sort of led you from one to the next?
Well, one of the things I learned early on is that meditation was a good thing for me. So every day I meditate and I ask a question like, is there anything you want me to know? Any way I can be of more service? And it's more of an, like I'm almost told what the next book is.
Oh, I love that. Do you feel like it's kind of channeled through you, or do you like research it?
Yeah. I generally, once I write a book, I say I have no idea what book I could possibly write next. And then at some point it becomes absolutely clear.
Oh, wow. What a lovely feeling that would be, to have that real certainty of, this is the thing.
And then do you delve
really
into
nice.
that? Do you delve into that project? Like, does it take like a year to write a book, or?
some books have taken me 5 days to write, and
Oh
some
my
books have
God.
taken me
That's a
three
channel game
years
for
to
sure.
write.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's quite a difference. But I often get very obsessed when I write, and will really focus on it and might maybe write a book in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
Jeez, that's amazing.
So I wanted to ask you about when you were on Oprah and, she liked your books and they became bestsellers. How was that for you? Like, what was that experience like, and becoming well known and people contacting you and wanting sessions and things? Like, how did that play out for you?
Well, it's funny in that in culture now, people all want to be famous. It's actually really fun for about 3 months, and then it's less fun, and then it's not fun at all.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
uh, because you get, hundreds of emails, you get a lot of requests, you get people wanting stuff from you all the time. After about 2 years of that, I actually stopped writing and entered into a spiritual community that was focused on service projects and didn't write anything for 10 years.
Wow.
Um, so, and then about 10 years ago, the head of the spiritual teacher or mentor said, "Hey, I think you're done here. You should go back in the world." And that's what I did.
Wow. Gosh.
So now I can do it with less attachment because, if a certain amount of fame happens again, I think I'm better prepared spiritually. Um, but
What do
it's
you,
it's
yeah,
it's
what do you think
stressful to have
affected
that.
you the most? Was it just the demands on your time? Was it you having to get back to everybody when you don't really have time to get back to that many thousands of people?
Yeah, that was it. And also, um, well, just busyness, that spirituality and relationships take time. And I always felt bad that I couldn't serve all these people. I was trying to return all the emails, everything, which
Yeah.
I'm very responsible about. And then, I was meditating an hour a day before, and then I realized, well, I'll meditate for half an hour, and then I'll meditate for 10
Oh, so you're
minutes.
cutting
And,
out of
it
your
just
stuff.
got a
Yeah.
little out of hand.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's why now you're training the therapist yourself so that you can have more people out there in the world doing the work that you do, so that way, the demand is being met and not just by one person. There's more
Yeah,
practitioners
I
out there.
think your podcast is partly about how do you take care of yourself. And I think people need rituals or things that they do every day, especially in this time of a lot of stress that really is geared towards finding your way to peace and love, whatever that is, because we're getting an onslaught of stress every single day.
That's right. And one of the things that, because people on the podcast know that we don't watch the news just because of all the levels of stuff that's in there that's going to affect our nervous system. So we don't put that in our awareness. I mean, obviously everyone still tells us what's going on. We knew about the cyclone today that's coming through in Perth. People let you know. So, but I just think that being really aware of what brings and takes your energy and what affects your day. So we used to find, especially during COVID times, we'd watch the news in the morning and then your whole energy for the day just feels terrible. So you're not in your heart. Well, you are, but it's in a negative way of feeling bad for everybody.
Yeah.
That compassion. And I think people have got to really realise what it is that pulls them out of their centre, what they can focus on. And you actually create the world that you focus on. So you going into your spiritual community and not paying attention to the fame and to all the, the glory, I guess, that you got from those books, and you tuned in and you tuned into your community, you focus on something completely different and then change your whole experience of your world at that time.
It was quite different. The people in the community really didn't like the fact that I wrote books. They weren't supportive of that.
You went from the opposite extreme, from being the glory of all the books.
I went into the opposite extreme, which I probably needed. It was very humbling.
Wow. And so when you did get famous and really well known and things, did it impact your family? Like, are you married with kids or?
Well, I'm married and I've been married for a long time. I do remember towards the end of this, when I was getting busier, a friend of mine came up to me and he said, I say this with love, but I just want you to know that you're no longer a good friend.
Oh,
That would hurt.
And I said, yeah, I haven't had time to connect, and that's a drag. And it was nice to have friends that could be that honest with me,
yeah.
that I could get that feedback and then change the course back to something more sane.
Yeah, a bit of a wake-up call for you when people are coming to you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy loves getting people's stories. It's one of her things. That's why she delved into that. I'm gonna pull it back because you've been very generous with your time. But I want to maybe finish on, so because we have listeners from various countries, and there'll definitely be people in the States. Where is the future headed, do you think, for this sort of work in the States? And then Tracy, you could probably give your opinion on what's happening over here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily, I did talk to Rick Doblin of MAPS last week, so I know his view of what's going to happen, and it actually coincides with what I think is going to happen. Unfortunately, for better or worse, money talks. So the FDA didn't give approval, but Big Pharma is now spending a lot of money trying to patent a version of MDMA that they can then sell.
Yeah.
And so when they put millions of dollars into this and, bribe or do whatever they do to get it through, it'll become a form of therapy with this new drug, which will be a very similar version to MDMA, but patented. So I think that will happen. I think also eventually the FDA will have to make MDMA more accessible. They're already thinking of doing that for veterans, but it takes millions of dollars and a lot of years to show studies in a way that they will accept. And then there'll be the MAPS protocol, which I think is good for a lot of people. And then there'll be more of this protocol where it's really done in a therapeutic context, interactive. And so I'm pushing for that. And I think it'll be, instead of $15,000, it'll be closer to $1,500. And so I think eventually that will be just how people do therapy a lot, is through MDMA, sometimes over Zoom, sometimes not.
Oh, as you talk, my heart just gets so happy. Like it just, you're talking my dream.
And what about you, Tracy? Because obviously you've got this certification, but it's impossible at the moment for you to actually do the work. So allow yourself to vent.
No, well, I think what it is because psychiatrists have to be the prescribers, they have to have done the training that I've done. And so that's a big commitment. And if psychiatrists are already, short of time and overworked and things, to go and take a course of study like I did, well, you remember how intense it was when I was doing it. Yep. Then you've got to take 6 days in-person training, might not even be in your state, especially from someone in here in Perth. You've got to go to Sydney or Melbourne to do the in-person part of it. So I think once there's more psychiatrists that are trained up, there's more opportunity. It's all supply and demand at the moment. The supply is great and the demand, the supply is limited and demand is great. So it is really expensive here. And again, we've got the double therapist rule. So that makes it even more pricey. So I think eventually they'll have to start reducing those protocols. They'll have to start doing it in a different way, and that will start reducing the cost. We've got insurers over here that are starting to take on some of that that funding, like the veterans and things like that. There's certain insurance companies as well that were doing that. So I think eventually, once more and more information gets out, I mean, hopefully, even with Jonathan, your work, that might change it again. Like they might shift it and go, wow, there's actually other protocols we could use that's safe, that's effective. People have been doing this for years. All the studies were done back in the 70s anyway. It's just, looking back at this data that's already been there. And it's really getting people away from the propaganda that was done back in the times when they were banned. People still really have that perception of it. Like people think I'm crazy, that I'm a psychedelic therapist. And I'm like, you don't even understand the benefits of this medicine. So whenever I hear anybody, Professor David Nutt, he talks a lot, about the benefits and things. And I will always share podcasts with people because I'm like, this is what it can do. This is a possibility. So once it becomes even more, that awareness grows, then people will have to start loosening the protocols or making it more available.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Well, for anyone listening who wants to have a session,
wants to buy the book and get all that.
You might have some Australians getting in touch with you if you are open to that.
On my website, which is xtcasmedicine.com, xtcasmedicine.com, there's a place where they can contact me, and actually I can send them referrals of people that I've trained that are all over the world, and that's all free. And also, if they put in their email address, they get a 12 questions that lead to instant intimacy with anyone
Oh,
and 10 ways to avoid bad trips.
I
So
love
I
it.
try to be supportive.
Yeah.
Luckily, I am not in need of money now, so it's more of a mission-oriented thing to get people to try this out that are in need. And I trained a bunch of people, and the people that I keep close contact with and supervise, I disseminate that list to whoever wants it.
Fantastic.
I feel like you're kind of where I'm going to be, where I'm going to work just as long as I love it. And I can hear that you don't really need to work, and yet you do that because you get so much joy out of it and you have that purpose. So I think that's so lovely.
You should get on the list for Australia, Tracy.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes. And then the book.
The book, yes, which for anyone watching is right behind your left shoulder, Ecstasy for Couples.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about what they would find out in there.
And where they can get it from.
Well, of course, you get from Amazon, and the book details how I facilitate these things, but also is a great book if you want to take MDMA alone with your partner. It tells you how to really set that up so that you're more likely to have the best therapeutic outcome. Because there's never been a book written about ecstasy for couples.
Oh,
so
really?
I really tried to put in all the knowledge I've gained from 40 years of helping couples not just do it for fun, but then, that can be great, but really get lasting therapeutic value from their taking it together with a mate.
Gosh, how many people can say they've done that for 40 years working in that in that area? Like that's such a you're a unicorn. Yeah. Yeah.
Been very lucky.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Is there any social media or anything you like to plug, or just the website?
No, just the website. But sometimes people want to know about the training, and that they can find out at mdmatraining.net.
Beautiful.
That goes a little bit more into my protocol and what I do when I train people.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Well,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been great to have you on the show. Thank you for agreeing to come on. It's been just really interesting. I reckon we'll have some people getting in touch with us who are going to want to follow up on this, because why wouldn't you? Yeah, fantastic.
Amazing.
Well, you two have a great vibration, and you're doing great work. So I'm really happy to support it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, there you go, Tracy. I think you were fangirling there a little bit, especially towards the end.
Well, I'm just so impressed that he's been doing this for 40 years. Like
it is very impressive.
He's living my dream. So yes, to talk to someone doing all the things that I would love to do, I was happy with that conversation.
Yeah, and the fact that he's not doing it for the money. And,
no, he believes in it. It's a purpose. Yeah, I think this is
the big thing that sort of definitely came out for me is I much prefer what he's doing, where you're actually being a therapist rather than other option of being an observer, which I think is probably, we have not discussed this, so bring it up on the podcast, but probably one of the reasons you're not that bothered about getting into it right now, because it's basically sitting in a room watching somebody take MDMA.
Yeah, and I think that's why I've moved into breathwork, because it's more dynamic, where I can feel the energy, I can be involved. Yeah. So the way that Jonathan's working, that would be my dream. So bring it on.
So are we going to find an MDMA supplier and do it on Zoom?
Well, I could certainly be the therapist, and someone else can do it in America.
I need to find that app, find that supplier. If any law enforcement's listening, I'm joking. We're not really doing that.
Unless you want us to do it with you. Unless you want us to do them.
Yes, yeah. But if you are interested, just shoot us an email.
Like Jonathan said, he's got the whole of the LAPD.
Yeah.
Half of them.
Well, it just makes total sense to me. Like, why wouldn't you be a therapist? Utilize the
skills you have.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Okay, well, hopefully that has opened some people's eyes as to what is possible and what psychedelic therapy looks like. And again, thank you to Jonathan. He was very good.
Yes.
All right. Well, speaking of couples, you have a relationship retreat with Tina coming up in June.
Yes, we have one in June. So you can jump on the website. You can see if there's any places left.
And then there'll be one more at the end of the year. I think I'm in charge of putting it on the website. I think it might be November.
Yes, it is November.
Yeah. So this comes out, you'll definitely have time to get in for the June one. So if you want to, it's tracyquayle.com, and then there's links under the menu called retreats, and you can find all the information. Is there anything else you want to say about it? I know we talk about it a lot.
No, that's fine.
No. I think if you listen to this episode and you got something out of it, you might find the retreat pretty good. And obviously dealing with Tracy, who has all those sorts of skills. I don't know what I'm saying. Am I promoting MDMA? I don't know. And then the other thing I did want to mention is if you haven't checked it out yet, we've got this new concept where we're combining my DJing with Tracy's amazing breathwork skills, and we're calling it Breathe Deep because it is a deep house crossed with breathwork experience. And we have a couple up on YouTube. And if you're in Perth, we are going to start promoting doing live events where we'll do the whole thing live and make it a bit of an experience for you. So if you don't follow us on social media, go to follow at tracyquayle.therapy and we'll talk about it there, and you'll be able to see when we've got an event coming up. Anything else?
Nope, all good.
Okay. What else do I usually say? If you want to join the mailing list, that's on the website too. Okay, well, I know you enjoyed that. So. Good job. Well done.
Good job to you too.
All right. And share the podcast, like it, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, and most importantly, tell your friends. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.